Wonderful job here in paradise today. All right, so we're going to get this going here. Not to take up too much of your time. Try to keep it 10:30. Have a timekeeper to make sure to stay on track. But just basically wanted to present to you some things to just maybe or maybe not shift your mindset. Open you up to some things that you're already doing well, but just understanding the why, the what, the who, and the how of these things to help for our students. All right, so phrase up here, the work. That's what we all do, the work. I'm going to say it again, the work. That doesn't say the F-U-N. No, it doesn't say the P-A-R-T-Y. It says the work. So it's work. It's work, which means, is it always easy? The answer is no. No. But we do what we need to do for our students. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Notice below, I'm going to touch on each of these words or phrases, acronyms here: CCRPI, RTI, CSOS, CCCABC, EFGHIJK, and so forth and so forth. All right, so many different things that we use in education, but just going to touch on these things so we understand what they are. Before we get started, I need a volunteer, somebody who considers themselves outspoken.
I'm a volunteer.
Come on.
I got orange blood.
Come on.
Sure,
Right.
why not?
So, what Fan is going to do, I'm going to have a word, right? So we're going to have to work together.
Okay.
So I'm going to write a word on this board. I'm going to hold it up over her head. Some of you play this game. I'm going to hold it over her head, and then you're going to give her clues. You cannot say any part of the word, but she's going to try to guess. You have exactly 60 seconds. Mr. Jacob's going to time for us, but you have exactly 60 seconds to get this. Let me choose a word here. Let's do, okay. All right, turn around so you don't cheat. Here we go. Okay, you can turn back around and face your audience. All right, Mr. Jacob. 60 seconds? Go, here we go. Here's the word. Give us some clues.
During our CCC, we work together.
Working together.
Collaboration?
Yeah.
Somebody say,
I thought I heard your question.
thought I heard, no. Good job, awesome. You are done. Just that simple, that fast. All right, and I have one more.
Oh.
Not for you, but for another volunteer. Who's our creative person in here? Somebody who's creative, artistic.
Go on.
Coleman.
I heard you say, come on up, sir.
Oh, now I got one. You really put me on the spot now.
So here's another one. This one is going to be a little different. Okay? I'm going to write the word on the back. See, I don't think I'm cheating. But I'm going to tell him the word. And now he's going to draw this word, and you're going to try to guess what the word is. Sorry, Mr. McCall, come over and take a peek at what the word is.
That'd be fun. I'm very jealous of
You can do it.
I'm just gonna give y'all as a I'm not an illustrator, okay? I'm a designer, not two different things. Okay?
All right, give 60-second timer.
And go. A line.
Box.
Square.
Diamond.
A
Microsoft.
A building. A
Table.
desk.
School.
Table.
House.
Table.
A table.
Support.
Tabletop.
There you go. That's it. Good job.
Support.
Support.
There you go. Very good. That was quick. I did better than I thought.
Yes. Robust support. Okay.
Where would you
Good
do
job.
that?
No, it's not.
So, maybe wondering, what was that for? Why we do that? One thing is we had to do what? We had to work together.
Yeah.
All right? They had to work together. They had to trust you. You had to trust them. To try to figure out this common goal. All right? So we're going to touch a little bit about that when we're talking about CCCs and understanding about that. So going into the work, a few things about it. The what and the why. Has anybody ever heard of CCRPI? What does that stand for?
College and career.
Well,
College and career readiness programs.
College Career Readiness Performance. Right. That was a score. For those that don't know, we've had a CCRPI score for years, and we stopped having that overall score back in 19. all right, with the waivers that were passed. So now we do still have particular components that are rated, and we still get the data for the other pieces. There were content mastery as well as graduation rate, achievement, closing the gaps, school climate, and so forth. Those were the other things that each got a score, which went into our overall score. Our last overall score was an 80.4, which was a great job, it's extremely high. All right, so a few, just to understand the what of what we ultimately are trying to do. Ultimately, let's focus on the graduation rate. 79.2, that takes the average between the 4 and 5 year cohort, as you see there. All right, which pre-pandemic, we'll go back to that, when we're rocking and rolling, graduation rate was below that, 76. All right, so we're still moving up in the right direction. You're still moving our students across that stage, which is the ultimate goal. Content mastery. These are for, what are these? Anybody know what these are?
EOC.
EOC, yes, EOC courses, right? How many courses do you see up there?
4.
There are 4. In this room, there's more than 4 courses that are taught, just in this room alone. Think about the whole school. So this is public knowledge. In the Georgia DOE, you can look this up for any school at this point. All right, and there's CCRPI to report their status. Graduation rate, this is what people look at. Public knowledge to rate South Cobb High School, 79.2%. 4 years, 78.7. Content mastery, to see how well we do as a school overall. This right here is what is looked at. So what does that make you think about? What do you conclude from that? This is what people look at. Say again?
It's too low.
It's lower than what it has been in the past, but we're moving up because we know we have learning gaps, and that's across the nation. But what do you see? What do you notice about this?
US
We're looking at
history is-
US history is the highest.
Yeah.
U.S. history is out. I'm going to touch that in just a moment. However, again, there's only 4. These are ELC courses that people look at to determine the measurement of our school. I spoke with the Guiding Coalition this summer about it. It is what it is. Spades are spades, facts are facts. The data. Looking at how we're rated. That is a major component of how we're rated. Again, that's not the whole school. However, we all have a piece of that because some of you teach courses prior to these assessments, so you're preparing them. And then also after these assessments, and you are supporting and reiterating and reinforcing them. And then every other content that's not connected with this, what we do with literacy is across the board, so you're helping, so everyone is helping. But yes, these things stand out. So does that mean these are the most important courses in the school?
Not necessarily. No.
Not inherently, but probably.
It just depends who looks at it.
Right.
We know as a school, no, it's not the most important because it's not the whole school. But this is what is shown, this is what is seen, this is what is published, this is what is measured. So understand when we do what we do, things that are lined up to these and the importance of EOC testing and the preparation is very important because this is how South Cobb is looked at, where every school is looked at, based on this. So keep that in mind, understand the importance of that. But it's not everything, but I just wanted you to see and understand why we do what we do. Ultimately, is so that in content mastery, that category for content mastery is preparing them to be able to be successful going on to the next course, right? And so moving on to graduation. Again, those are the most important things, but as Mr. Amoroso mentioned, yes, we did take a decline in our ELA math and science EOCs. However, pre-pandemic, U.S. history was a 76. U.S. history increased during and after the pandemic. Now, I'll not to single them out, they're doing a good job just like everybody, but one extra component of adding that Achieve has really helped, that Achieve 3000 with increasing that literacy, that has really helped, and they can, in here you can attest to that. So numbers don't lie. But again, we're moving up, all right? But just know that this is how we're looked at, just so you understand why we do what we do and what it is that are being looked at. So, PLCs, Professional Learning Community Definition. I want you to take about 3 minutes at your tables and come up with your definition of what a PLC is. What is a professional learning community? Talk amongst yourselves and determine what that is. Give you about 3 minutes.
Yeah. Or collaborate. Collaborate.
Yeah, I agree with that. It also is a group of people that support each other on access to things.
Plan instruction.
The three of you, right? And
Continuously.
How did you teach this? What resources did you use? What vocab did you use? Because you had in the common assessment that we're using from instruction.
And so, learning and
You all
About 1 minute.
Individualized learning is kind of because I mean, technically, family is a learning experience. Your peer is a learning experience. Professionals doing
About 30 seconds.
me and English do not go hand in hand. I was teaching them, I'm like, did I feel like I said that wrong. They look at me like, yeah, you did.
All right, we'll bring it back. So, had some great conversation. And I want to hear from 3 groups. So first group, we're from the back right here.
We have an opportunity for planning, remediation, enrichment, review, and analyze data for academic disciplines. We also included teacher talkouts when we share our teaching strategies. We look at some things that worked and didn't work and put it all together and try to move forward for a common goal.
Okay, all right, good job. 2 more, let's get one right here.
Okay, group of educators who regularly meet and collaborate to analyze data, plan instruction, develop strategies, continuously to support student learning, mastery, achievement of content.
They cheated off of
We ain't. It's supposed to be like this.
See, just like students, here we go. And let me get right here in the middle.
So we said for us, CCCs are a chance for us to get together to not only discuss data, but to discuss resources and strategies that we see have worked. We also ensure that our instruction, because at least the way that we do in world history, we've got U.S. history in mind. We know where they are going next. So we try to ensure that our instruction and how we are scheduling our units benefits where the students are moving next.
Awesome, that content mastery. Good job, thank you all. All right, so you all had a great definition. Here's an example, here's the definition from before and Matos Learning by Join, is to establish a clear vision about what to do to ensure all students learn, to make collective commitments clarifying what each member must do to fulfill that vision, to ensure that all members work together to clarify exactly what each student must learn, monitor each student's learning on a timely basis, provide systematic interventions that ensure students receive additional time and support for learning when they struggle, and extend their learning when students have already mastered the intended outcomes. That encompasses everything that those who shared, and I'm more than likely probably with the rest of you who didn't get a chance to share, saying the same thing. We do these things. This is nothing new. Collective commitments, what each member must do. Each of you have roles in that, all right? Must work together and clarify exactly what each student, not what the class, not what the course, each student, what each student needs. And interventions, determining what interventions are needed for each student. What interventions are needed. Providing support in the time that we need for master the intended outcomes. So, PLC, professional learning communities, COBs, we COBified that, CCCs, COB collaborative communities. Same thing, right? So the who, we went over the what and the why. Who does the work? We do, yes, you all do. You do the work, all right? So you're responsible. It has the 3 big ideas for CCCs as well as the superintendent's priorities tied together. Collaboration. Ensure that, and it says ensure that Cobb is the best place, but I'm gonna say that the South Cobb High School is the best place to teach, lead, and learn. Teach, lead, and learn. All right, we're doing everything in our collaboration to make sure, and that collaboration is within our CCC, to make sure that we are the best place. Focus on learning, simplify the foundation for learning to prepare for innovation, so that there's room for growth, so that you can be innovative in what our practice is to be able to reach each of our students as we're moving forward. Keyword here says focus on learning, not teaching. Who's involved when we talk about teaching? We are the adults. Who's involved with the learning?
The kiddos.
The students. Focus on learning. It'll help with the teaching. Focus with the learning and mindset. Results oriented, of course, we use the data to make decisions. I heard a few saying it's not all the data. I mean, that's not all you talk about when you have meetings, and not just the data, but that's what you use to make informed decisions when you're planning. As I mentioned always, you plan, then based on your planning, you teach. Based on what you teach, you assess. After you assess, you take the information, and then you plan. You keep doing that over and over and over. But that's what you use. So, continuing to use these things as we're going forward, but that is who. We all do that. So, CSOS, Cobb's System of Support. You'll hear about this more as the year goes along. This is Cobb's new way of really working with the whole systematic approach of RTI. Anybody ever heard RTI? What does RTI stand for?
Response to intervention.
Look at that. Look at that. Response to intervention. Yes. So I actually went to a conference last month, and great RTI conference, Solution Tree, and their sentiment was RTI is more responsible teachers intervene. Does anybody feel a way about that? Why?
We're all responsible.
Because if you're responsible for your students and you want to be sure they learn, and you intervene whenever they're not doing that.
But do you feel like that's a bad thing to say responsible teachers intervene?
No, it's a good thing.
Yeah, because that gives the connotation that some teachers are not responsible, which we would assume that us as educators, we should all be responsible.
It's a great comment, but when you assume things, you know, if you heard the phrase, you make out of, I'm not gonna say it's recorded out of you and me, and we wanna make sure, because the reality is, everybody's not responsible.
Oh, no.
That's across the nation. I'm not talking about South Carolina, period. All teachers are not responsible. They're not. But there's things in place to help and guide so that we can be responsible. But a lot of it comes from your mindset of focusing on the learning on the students, and that helps you to be more responsible. But yes, there are ways for responsible teachers intervening, and that's what goes with the RTI. So RTI, team with CCCs. This is the how, or this is the who, right? RTI, what we're trying to get them to do. So we take that together, and that's what the success is for the students. And that's what the Cobb System of Support. All right, System of Support. And this goes to, System of Support is basically what supports do we have in place for the student academically, behaviorally, all right, and also just in their wellness, because it's the whole child. It's the whole child, all right? Looking at this comment here, this statement here, when it comes to how educators should respond when students struggle in school, the research and evidence in our field have never been more conclusive. A multi-tiered intervention system is the best way to intervene, and that goes to that RTI. And I'm gonna look at it and show you a graphic here in just a moment. But everybody understands there's a couple, how many levels of RTI are there? Maybe 3? It's not a trick question. 3? Yeah. There are 3, and then it moves on if it does go into the next level, which we'll show you here in just a moment. But that multi-tiered approach, right? Figuring out what it is we need to do for the students in our class. And that's why I say focus on your students, that block, that day. So if this is my second block class, I'm focusing on each one of you students today in this class. I have a different focus next block, because what? Those are different students. It may be the same course, but they're different students in different levels. All right? So make sure that we're doing that to ensure that all students, again, another part of the system of support, Ensure that all students learn at high levels and master the learning outcomes. All students, that goes to all, each, every single student. We can say, well, most of them got them. Most of them understand. I looked at the assessment, I only had 2 that failed, so I'm just gonna move on to the next unit. I'm not gonna pay any mind, I'm not gonna go back, I'm not gonna try to do any type of differentiation or intervention. Is that right? Because we wanna make sure we're addressing every single student. So if you're a teacher that's like, well, we gotta go, we don't have time, right? We hear that a lot. And I understand, you don't have time. You don't have time, we don't have time, we don't have time, you 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 don't have time. We don't. We don't. We don't. But we have to do what? We have to make the time. Because for doing what we're doing, it's serious because we're affecting students. So we're gonna have to make the time to figure out to be effective for them, for each of our students. For those of you who have your own children, how would you feel if their teacher was like, they didn't do well, but we gotta move forward, we gotta go. I don't have time, sweetheart, I don't have time. I don't have time. We don't have time to go over that. We don't have time to work with that. Like, you probably wouldn't be the happiest about that, I'd imagine. So we got to think about that of what can we do? And it goes back to the very beginning of the what? The work. Figuring out what we need to do for the work of that. I remember I had a student that changed my whole trajectory of teaching my first year, 7th grade, Garrett Middle School, several years ago. And Javier's a father. All right, student, he was low. He was low. And it was around Thanksgiving, Christmas time, whatever. I'll never forget because it was just one of those moments that had me really reflecting. Just getting into teaching, I was like, okay, I need to really reflect and not just focus on the teaching piece. I need to reflect and see, what am I doing? Am I teaching? Are they getting it? And we're talking about one of the assessments he just had, and he was like, Mr. Perry, just because you teach it don't mean I learn it. I was like, man, sit down, right? And then we kept on going on to the next thing in the class, because of those who've been in middle school, they're all over the place. At the end of class time. And so then I left, and I really thought about that and said, well, he has a point. I mean, just because I taught it does not mean that he learned it. Mm-hmm. So that means it comes back to me. What am I going to do differently? What do I do? I'm the one that's being paid. I'm the one that has the degrees. I'm the one in the position. That's a child. They show up to us. It's our job to do the work to figure out what it is we have to do to reach those children, every single one of them. We can't just keep going on, go to the next thing, go to the next thing, and not try to figure out what it is we need to figure out to help and guide those students, because every single student may not get it. And that's fine, but it does take some work. It is very tough, it is very challenging, but it does take work. So that's why I say the CCC, the RTI of what we're doing, the different interventions, it has to be teamed with the CCCs, because that's the bloodline. That's what we have, is the heartbeat of the foundation of what goes on successfully for our students overall. And we have to be on the same page as the CCC. We're on different pages. That flows into how we're teaching those students in that particular course. So we need to make sure we're all on the same page with what we're doing to support our students. So when I talk about tiers, what does the top say?
Reading books.
Well, sorry, the title, I'm sorry. Supports. So thinking about when you're tiering and say, well, this student's a tier 2 student, a tier 3 student. So if this is a student, say this is TJ, and I'm cool with social skills, I got the math down pat, I'm good to go. I can write. Sometimes I'm engaged, sometimes I'm not, it just depends on what's really going on. I don't really read well at all. I don't comprehend a lot that's going on in reading, but I can communicate, and emotionally I'm okay. So how do you tier, what tier do you put me on?
Can you have different tiers at different times?
Yes, that's the answer. The supports. And it's something that you, again, already do in your classes that starts with the D. What do we already do? We differentiate anyway. So, but keep that in mind of understanding that, well, if a student doesn't do well, and there's some things that link. We realize a lot of your Lexile scores, their reading, we can say, okay, Lexile score is low, they may be low across the board. But that's not always true. They're gonna have a low Lexile score. We've seen it. We have them right now. They have low Lexile scores, but they are killing it in certain classes. It's not an automatic, all right? It's not automatic. So just because we're like, that's a tier 2 student for that, they may be rocking and rolling in another content. So keep that in mind when we're working with our students of what kind of things do I need to do to show different interventions for my students particularly. Keyword is focusing on your individual students, each one, every day, each one. Why? Why does it matter? Why does it matter? A few points here. CCCs are a necessary foundation for the COP system of support. Again, for that whole system of supporting the students' well-being, all right, academics, behavior, CCCs. We need that, again, to be on the same page and everybody on the same, have the same goal at CCC, to help our students succeed. Again, all the students are our students. We talked about that. COP system of support with the RTI process. You may have thought, some think this, that RTI process when you get to level 3 is the whole thing is to try to get the student to be special ed. That's not what RTI is for. It's not. There's some who think that. I'm not saying in this room, but there are people who think that. But that's not what it's there. That's not what it's for. All right, it's not what it's for. We want to try to be preventative. So you're coming up with strategies and interventions that are preventative, so that way your students don't have to move up to the different tiers based on those particular standards. Students can receive interventions as part of all 3 tiers, as I just mentioned. Interventions are tiered, but students are not. The interventions are tiered, which you're already doing. Interventions, you tier your interventions. COP system of support, preventative, and outcome is oriented as it provides structure, and it gives that data and structure to support student learning and problem solving. And then look at the last one, tier 1. So we can say tier 2, tier 3, right? It should never really be more than 15% of your students on tier 2, tier 3, right? So if tier 1 is solid, the basics, everyone starts on tier 1 anyway, no matter what. So if we focus on, again, the simplifying the foundation for teaching and learning, if we simplify it, and we focus on tier 1, what does it do? It diminishes the need for tier 2 and tier 3 anyway. So really focusing on the simple things that we've been doing, right? So figure out how, as you're walking out of here, what can I do? What do I do differently? Or I just have the mindset of knowing that, okay, if I go back to class, that student is not just an overall tier 2 student. And I have to figure out how can I reach that particular student, that individual student. It's not a whole class, it's an individual student. How do I reach them and help them be successful between now to the end of the course? And I go back to the very beginning of the work. I had someone in the other session. What if they don't do their part? They're not going to a lot of times. Because they're what? They're kids. We're the adults, we're the professionals. So as a teacher, that's when we have to do our research and utilize and lean on our CCC for support. You're not in it by yourself. And even the singletons, right? There's others from other schools you can reach out to and connect with. We have academic coaches. There's support. So you're not feeling like you're on an island. But just to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to really be there, truly to support our students individually. But we have got to tighten up and make sure our CCCs are strong. Because if each CCC is strong, that makes the overall school strong from that point. All right, and lastly, going back to this was presented by the assistant superintendent during pre-planning this year, if you remember. This is Cobb's 3-year plan. We're dealing with the CCC process. And as you see again, the priorities as well as the 3 big ideas. I know you may not be able to see this, but for this year, this year the focus is tier 1. All right, focus on tier 1. The basic strategies, what we do. Again, let's focus on those strategies. Quality instruction for everybody. We do that. Intervention, enrichment, at least 1 time a week. Do we have something? Do we have some type of intervention at least once a week? What is that?
We do. A lot of us do tutoring. We've also got SOAR.
Well, yes. What do we do every day? What do we have every day as intervention? Literacy blocks, right? Literacy. See, if you do it so much, you don't even realize that it's considered intervention, and it does. Because they have different texts that they do read, and so it's tailored towards their interests and what their levels are for their reading. So we have that. Everybody doesn't have that. Some only do something once a week. We want to be, again, give our students the best opportunity, and we want to do it every day. Formation and continuation of COB system of support team, and that's primarily our guiding coalition. Collaboration, focusing on question 1. What do we want them to learn, right? What is that? What do we use? What do we use to determine that? Priority standards, we're focusing on those. And our learning targets is adding on to that as well. And going into learning targets, for those you can't see right here, prioritize standards, which we do, and learning targets consistent in all classrooms. Because somebody say, well, I got friends at other schools, they don't have to put no learning targets up every day, or they don't have to put them up in their room. Again, Prioritize standards and learning targets consistent in all classrooms. Cobb County School District. Are we doing that? We are. We are. Everyone is not, but we are. We're going to make sure we're going to do the best for our students. All right? Shared accountability, CCC meetings. We meet. You do have meetings. You have meetings. You have set times. Each week, at least once. Develop teacher leadership, again, through different professional development sessions. And we do have teachers throughout the year who are going to present to you on different things. We have the Wicker as well. So, again, opportunities for teacher leaders to lead CCC work as well. And then lastly, for results, question 2, right? What do we do? How do we know? The assessment. What do we do for our assessments? Do we have, it says, utilize common formative and summative assessments to inform intervention. Do we have common assessments? We do. We do. Again, this is not just me talking. This is the district, and this is, again, collective effort of what we all should be doing. But we're doing it anyway. So this is really just letting you know we're doing a good job. Continue doing what we're doing. But I want you to understand the true who behind the work we do, which is all of us. The how, right? And then the why and the what's. You know what we're doing, why we're doing it every single day. And really focus on individual students and individual student needs. But we're doing these things. Like, and some of these were already into 2003, 2004, what is expected for the next year, but we're already on that direction. So we're ahead of the game. All right, we're ahead of the game. But just as we're getting down to the weeds and the thick of things, and then the holidays coming up, and you know, it just may seem like a lot, just know that what you're doing is good. You're working hard, but it is going to be just that. It is work. And when you get to a point, you're like, man, this shouldn't be this much. It just is. It just is. It's hard being a teacher. We all know it in this room. It is hard, it is hard, it is hard, it is hard, it is hard. It is hard. And you don't have time. You don't have time. You don't have time. You don't have time. But guess what? You show up every day and you do put in the work. So I appreciate you. Continue to put in that work and understand what it's for. And all that's the reason of what it's for. But just again, that mindset, if anyone is kind of in between and not really totally sure why you do what you do every day, that's why. And it's for those students. All right. So lastly, you walk out. You may not have your phone. I did not tell you to bring it with you. I'm going to send this link out. But if you can scan this, please, before you walk out. There's 4 questions. 2 of them are rating, and then 2 are just questions if you have questions. And just select those, and then you are good. If you did not sign in the back, please sign in the back. And again, if you don't have yours, I will send this out so everybody has an opportunity to do this.